Hello everyone! Today we're going to be learning about the history of mobile games. So, how many of you are watching this video on your mobile phones right now? Raise your hand. Give us a like while you're at it. Or, give us a like while you're at it. But yeah, so nowadays there's all kinds of different games that we can play on our phone, on our tablets, on our desktop PC. Lots of games, lots of different platforms. But it was not always that way. So today we're going to go back in time and learn about the history of mobile games. So a lot of this stuff I'm actually too young to even remember myself, so a lot of you might not have actually seen these things before in real life, but there are a lot of references to these games in pop culture, so maybe this will help you understand those references better. Alright, let's get started. Typically downloaded from an app store, mobile games are conveniently played on devices such as smartphones, tablets, and smartwatches. So if you look here, you can see this is an iPhone, and these are all different types of games. I think this is Pokemon Go. That was really popular for a while. Mario Run and also Temple Run. So I used to be, pretty good at Temple Run back in my day. But yeah, so lots of different games that we can find and play today. So these games are typically or usually 보통 downloaded from an app store. So if you have an Android phone, usually you would have to go to the Google Play Store. And if you have an Apple device, you can only use the Apple App Store. So when we download and play these games, it's very convenient, right? It's very easy, it's very simple, very quick. You just have to download it, and then it opens automatically on your phone, which is actually a pretty amazing achievement when you think about it. Yeah, I knew about games for smartphones and tablets. I did not know that there were games for smartwatches. I'd be very curious to see what kind of games you could play on such a tiny little screen on your watch. All right, next sentence. A version of the classic video game Snake, where players try to make a moving line continuously grow, is considered the first mobile game in history. So here you can see a screen capture of the game Snake. I doubt that any of you have ever actually played this, and if you have, congratulations, you must really like retro games. But basically, this little this line, it keeps growing, so it starts off with just 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and you have to keep moving it around the screen, but you have to make sure that it doesn't touch the red dot, because then you lose. Or if it crosses over itself, you also lose. So it's actually harder than it looks, especially when you're playing it on like a dark, it's not even an LED, tiny little green and black screen. So where did the game Snake come from exactly? First released as a Nokia 6110 feature in 1997, the game proved to be one of the most popular parts of the phone. So this game, it's 23 years old. That's pretty old. Back then, maybe you've seen in movies, but people would use these cell phones that looked almost like a remote control for your TV. And a really popular brand for these phones was Nokia. And these phones, they would last forever. It's not like now where you have to charge your phone every day. These things could go for days, sometimes even weeks on a single charge. And they were basically indestructible. You could run them over with your car. Yeah, you could use them for a really long time. So even with all of these cool features that the Nokia phone had at the time, the game Snake was one of the most popular parts of the phone. So when you say that it proved to be popular, it means that it came out to be popular. It became known as popular. So what about other games that have been developed since then? After seeing Snake's favorable reception, other mobile device manufacturers also began adding preloaded games as features. So in the past, there was no app store, right? There was no Google Play Store. So you couldn't just, go to the app store and download these games. They had to come installed on your device or you would not be able to play them. So other companies, we just said that Nokia was a really popular cell phone company at the time, and they were the first ones to make the game Snake. So other companies, they saw that Snake received a favorable reception. So people received it, they got it, and they really liked it or favored it. So other manufacturers or companies that make cell phones began adding preloaded games as features. So like I just said, in the past you could not go to the App Store or install new games on your phone. So the manufacturers would install the games onto the phone before they sold it to you. So here I think this is like a space aliens game where you have to shoot the space aliens, and then I think this might also be Snake again, I'm not sure. Due to the lack of both hardware and software technology, mobile games in the early 2000s remained simple and limited. So, I mean, if you look at these games and you compare them to the games that you can play nowadays on your phone, these look really, really simple, right? And there's not a whole lot that you can do. There's only these 2 buttons, I think. So it's kind of difficult to use and maybe actually not all that fun. And that is the way that things stayed until the early 2000s. So what happened? The release of Apple's iPhone in 2007, along with its App Store coming out a year later, revolutionized the mobile game industry. So I know a lot of you may have grown up and you've never experienced life without smartphones. But when the iPhone came out, it was a really big deal. There's really nothing else quite like it on the market at that point. Most people's phones, they kind of looked like this, or there were flip phones. Sometimes you can still find those in Korea, but usually they have a lot more features than the ones that people like me, I guess I'm old, would use when I was in middle and high school. But then after the iPhone, it was a totally new world. It was basically a revolution. So when we talk about revolution, we can say the American Revolution, 미국 혁명, 아니면 we can also talk about the French Revolution, 프랑스 혁명. So the reasons why the American and the French revolutions are important is because the situation that came before and after them were very, very different, right? So this iPhone, this little black rectangle, it was like a revolution for the technology industry as well as the mobile game industry. Thanks to the iPhone's innovative design and Apple highly encouraging third-party apps, developers were able to flourish. So, like I said, in the past there was nothing like this that had ever existed on planet Earth. This was just 13 years ago. I mean, when you think about human history, humans have walked on this earth for how many thousands or millions of years, and nothing that was quite like this ever existed until 2007, which is just a little tiny bit of time when you think about it. But because the iPhone had an innovative or creative or new design, and Apple highly encouraged third-party apps, developers were able to flourish, where you could basically get little pieces of software for your cell phone. That was an entirely new idea that no one had ever thought of before. And because iPhones could use the App Store, companies that make games or developers, they want to sell their games to the people with the iPhones, right? So Apple highly encouraged third-party apps. So third-party, that means, or I think in Korean it's literally 제3자, so like the third person, right? So basically what that means is it's a party or it's a person or a company that's outside of Apple. So for instance, let's say I own the game Pokemon, all right? And I want to sell a game based on Pokemon to iPhone users. So because Apple encouraged third-party apps, even though my company is Pokemon and not Apple, I can put my app into the Apple App Store and reach their customers. And at the time, this was a very new concept. Not a lot of other companies were doing something like that, and everyone wanted to get in on this new revolutionary app store. And because of this, app developers were able to flourish or to succeed. Mobile games that found immediate success from the App Store include Trism and Tap Tap Revenge. So, I don't know, do kids play these anymore? I remember I definitely played them when I was in middle and high school, I think. So this game, this is Tap Tap Revenge. It's almost like Guitar Hero. So music plays and then notes come down in these little circles, and you have to keep tapping with the correct beat, and you can get points. It's actually really fun. And then this is the game Trism, which I think it's kind of like you put the shapes that are the same color next to each other. That kind of game. Kind of like Candy Crush, I guess, but the OG, the original Candy Crush. So these games found immediate success right away. Very quickly, they were able to find success by putting their app on the App Store. All right, well, we're already at the end of this article. It's hard to believe, but yeah. So today we learned about the history of mobile games, and that history is actually not very long. As we mentioned earlier, the very, very first mobile game that you could play on a mobile phone only came out 22 years ago. And if we just think about how much has changed between then and now, I mean, it's frankly remarkable. So yeah, I think thanks Steve Jobs for inventing the iPhone and making these kind of apps available for everyone. All right, well, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, make sure to let us know in the comment section below. All right, this was very fun, and I will see you again next week. All right, bye.